Needing tubes put in your ears is a common solution to the childhood ailment of ear infections. How is this done and why do doctors do it? We're going to learn about this as well as the structure of the ear. Today's lesson is on the structure of the ear. So, when we're looking at the ear, there's three general parts of the ear: the outer ear, the middle ear, and the inner ear. The outer ear can be composed of the pinna, which is the outer external flap. It does a good job of collecting sound and bringing it into the auditory canal. Now, the auditory canal is the other part of the outer ear. It carries sound to the eardrum, also known as the tympanic membrane. It's lined with sweat glands that produce earwax, and that earwax's job is to trap foreign invading particles so we don't get things into our ear that could cause infections. The middle ear begins at the eardrum and it starts with the tympanum or tympanic membrane and it extends towards the oval and round windows. Past the tympanic membrane is an air filled chamber that contains three small bones known as ossicles. There is the malleus, the incus, and the stapes. And the sound vibrations that strike the eardrum are going to be concentrated within the malleus, incus, and stapes, which means they're going to amplify the sound waves to continue to pass them along. And then they're going to vibrate the membrane covered oval window. So those bones, the malleus, incus, and stapes, amplify the sound waves. And the last one is attached to the oval window, which is then going to connect to our inner ear. Also connected to the middle ear, that air-filled chamber, is the eustachian tube. Now, the eustachian tube extends from the middle ear to the sinuses, the air in the mouth, and the chambers of the nose. And this permits equalization of air pressure. So, if you've ever been on an airplane or gone up and down a really big hill, you might notice the pressure in your ears, and it can be neutralized by swallowing, chewing gum, sucking on candies, things like that. And the middle ear is also where we'll have ear infections. And this can cause a buildup of fluids and create inequalities in pressure, which is why our ears can be sore. Now, going back to the beginning when we talked about putting tubes in the ears, there would actually be a cut put into the tympanic membrane so the doctor can insert a small tube, allowing fluid that may build up from the eustachian tube into the middle ear to flow into the outer ear to prevent any further inflammation, swelling, pain, and infection. This happens more often in children than adults because their eustachian tube is smaller. Then we have the inner ear, which is fluid filled. So the outer ear is air filled, the middle ear is air filled, and the inner ear is fluid filled. And it's made up of two main components: the semicircular canals, which are involved in balance, and then the cochlea, which is connected to our hearing. So it's kind of the functional unit of hearing, like the retina was the functional unit of vision. And those three semicircular canals are going to be arranged at different angles, and they're filled with fluid, and it will help us identify our body movements. Are we spinning? Are we walking? Are we jumping? Are we falling? The cochlea is shaped like a snail's shell. It's fluid filled and it has rows of different hair cells. And inside that cochlea is something known as the organ of Corti, which is the functional unit for sound. And it's able to identify and respond to different waves of sound, frequencies, sound waves of different frequencies, and sound waves of different intensities. So this is a great cross section of the cochlea. So we have our cochlear duct. In the center, we have our tectoral membrane, and our next slide will be greatly magnified. And then at the bottom, we have a green basilar membrane. And you can see this is all connected to the yellow cochlear nerve going out the right-hand side. So this is our tectoral membrane and basilar membrane. So what happens during hearing is the sound waves that have been amplified through the outer and middle ear will make sound waves in the fluid that fills the cochlea, and they'll cause that basilar membrane to rise and fall, just like a boat would on the ocean. And then those little hair cells, stereocilia, will rub against the tectoral membrane, and then those hair cells are going to be stimulated, and they're going to send a message through the auditory nerve to the temporal lobe so that we can identify our hearing. So today we're just going to talk about the structure of the ear. We're going to continue on with our next lesson to talk about how hearing works.